I didn't
I
go.
saw they were there.
I didn't do it.
Testing, testing.
It was good, but Thursday was just
President Ford, Dr. Starcher, board members. Before you this morning, you have a binder that it's sectioned out, and I'll go through it first, and then we'll go into our budget requests for your review. Behind section 1 is a budget calendar. The dates to remember that are remaining on the budget calendar would be May the 16th. We have to have our notice of public hearing out. It'll actually be in the papers today, so that has been filed. We do have a follow-up work session if necessary on Friday. The public hearing will be on May the 27th at our next regularly scheduled board meeting, or before our next regularly scheduled board meeting at 4:30 in the afternoon. And of course, we must submit our budget on May the 30th. Section 2 is the actual working budget document. The first section of that document lays out the different funds and the revenues for each fund. I'm not going to go into each of those other than to say the budget for FY26 would require a carryover of $4.2 million. That is down significantly from this year. It was over $8 million. So the realignment of the workforce is a big reason for that reduction. And we'll go into that as we go through our work session today. Page 2 is all the intra-fund transfers that are necessary especially for our excess levy, to show the revenue for those projects that are funded through the levy and get the revenue budget set up. Fund 61 is the state and federal revenue portion of the budget. You can see it's about $25.2 million. And for the most part, those are estimates based on the current year. A lot of the federal program budgets have not been released, which is also affecting some of the state program budgets. So a lot of those numbers, we will know more probably by June or July, I think, is when we anticipate receiving those results. The next section of the budget is, of course, the expenditure detail. And again, I'm not going to go into all that with you, but it lays out by programmatic level the anticipated expenditures in the budget. Section 3 is the state aid portion of the budget. And you have different handouts that are stapled there. In the first handout on page 2, you can see Raleigh County's total budgeted state aid before charter allocations is $63.3 million. For FY24, it's $64.5 million. So we do have a reduction in state aid. Of course, some of that is enrollment related, and the enrollment related is, of course, charter schools. Charter schools are projected to go from the current level of $884,000 to $1.5 million next year. So it's a doubling of the charter school allocations. We'll be discussing that today as well. The second handout in that shows the charter school state aid adjustment. Raleigh County, $66.6 million in total basic state aid, $1.5 million in charter school allowances for $65.2 million net state aid after charter schools. The next section lays out the individual steps within the state aid formula. Yeah. You can see at the top, it says Spinal Comps Public School Support Program. It starts with step 1A. So not really going to go over much in this. It just shows how the individual steps are calculated. It does, towards the end, page 9, does show you what the number employed in excess of limits net of charters, that's on page 9
Section 4.
in section 4.
3. Still in 3. You haven't gone to 4.
Oh, okay, yeah, 3, I'm
No,
sorry.
I thought we were on there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It shows that Raleigh County, now this is before the realignment that has taken place, shows Raleigh County was projected to be over formula 79.27 professional positions. Okay, on the next page shows service anticipated at 47.61. Okay, now the service is a little bit of a oddity because it doesn't reflect those third grade classroom aides. So you can add about 32 positions to that to give you about 81. So
32.
with the 32. So that's what we were looking at before the realignment, okay? The next section just shows much like West Virginia State Aid for Schools, there's also computations for charter schools, and that's in your handout there. The next section is PEIA, and then retirement, then unfunded teachers, unfunded retirement appropriation. The next two sections are abbreviated summaries. One's an abbreviated summary, one's an executive summary that discusses the public school support program and how the allocations work for your review. The next section, next to last section in that handout, is the local share calculations. And of course, as you know, local share is used to also reduce some state aid. We did have a increase in local share to 17 over on page 6 of that handout. Local share is about 17.6 million for Raleigh County. Last year was about 17.4 million. So not a huge change in local share. We did have a little bit of an increase in assessed valuation, so you would expect to see an increase in local share as a result of that. So the last section, or next to the last section, shows the amounts that are recommended for library support. Raleigh County's recommended support amount for libraries is $145,000. Of course, Raleigh County has always worked well with the local library, and our allocation to the library is about $463,000. So we're well above the recommended allowance to our local library. Section 4 of the book talks about it's the levy order and rate sheet. It shows that local tax collections next year of about 19.8 million, and excess levy tax collections of about 24.5 million, for a total levy collections of about 44.5 million. Section 5 is a summary of the support mechanisms built into the levy. Our excess levy call was about 22.8 million, and you can see the individual breakouts that of each levy line item on that page. The next section there is the actual levy call, should you need to refer to it. Section 7 is the departmental budget request, and we'll go through that in just a few moments. But it's the detailed support documents for what's in the budget request summary that we'll discuss. Section 7 is the payroll and salary information, starting with the central office salary summary. Page 2 shows through the excess levy what supports are increased supports are through the levy. There are none for FY26. There was an adjustment provided to employees at the start of the levy for the FY25 year, but there are also several enhanced benefit calculations within our levy as well, as you are aware of. The next sections are the professional and service salary schedules for FY26, along with a listing of position codes that lets you know what positions are actually considered when the state says classroom teacher positions. What does that actually mean? There's a summary there that shows you what position codes make up classroom teachers. After that, it shows the average of the professional personnel salaries. And on page 2 of that schedule, you can see that Raleigh County currently ranks 16th in the state in terms of average salaries at $60,597 a year. The next schedule behind that, there's a couple schedules before we get over to service personnel. On service personnel, I don't think I have a ranking actually on service personnel. Service personnel is about $3,665 a year. Just a reminder, in this budget, there is a 14% increase for PEIA. That is another significant increase. Of course, for over formula positions, we do not get funding for through the state aid formula. And lastly, a couple things in there. One is the superintendent's contract, of course, that starts in the new fiscal year. And then there's a staffing projection that shows you by school what is budgeted for FY26 by school, by position. Okay. And so if you go to the last page of that handout, 1,640 positions are in this document for next year. There's actually 1,642 positions in the budget because there are 2 nursing positions outside of this. One is a one-to-one nurse and one is a one-to-one LPN nurse that'll be required next year. Those are not reflected here. It's in the budget request summary. Okay. The last section are several handouts, which we'll discuss as we go through our work session today. I'd like to direct you to the large handout that's under your budget binders. And start discussing the budget requests for FY26. Of course, as you're aware, these requests come from several places. One of the reasons we have LSIC meetings, of course, is to determine what the needs are at our school locations. And some of those we address throughout the fiscal year. Some of the larger requests that we cannot address through the fiscal year are in this document. Our directors provide budget requests to us as well, which we consider as part of the process. And then there's some maintenance. Maintenance is also involved heavily in this process, and they also provide us with a lot of information regarding roofs and HVAC units and other things that maybe we need to address in the following fiscal year. We meet with those directors in departmental meetings, and we rank their requests based on the district's priorities for the next year. And so the ones that are ranked as priority 1, we will discuss today, but you'll have an option, of course, to review the rest of them to see if there's any others you would like to move up in the ranking process. Starting at Beckley Elementary, we have a request for LED lights in the bathroom. There's a lot of lighting projects in this budget as we go through. A lot of our schools, the lighting is outdated and needs modernized. So Beckley Elementary is requesting lights for their bathroom. And any of these you have any comments on, please just let me know. Beckley Stratton, paint the first floor. This is the bottom floor of the school that we weren't able to get through last year. We've done the gym, We've done bleachers in the gym, and we've painted the second floor. This is just a completion of that project. And that painting is done by our summer crew, okay?
I think a little bit will have to be done by a vendor in the
Correct, and that's what,
foyer
that's what,
area.
yeah, and that's what this is, the vendor piece. Bradley Elementary, LED lights in the gym. New door locks at Bradley as well. New basketball backboards, we're actually looking at that now. We just received a bid yesterday, or a quote on that yesterday, so we'll proceed with that. We don't know how the infrastructure to hold the backboard, if we need to replace that or not, and that's what we're looking at. The business office, of course, we try to get 3 Kronos clocks every year for those that go out. Child nutrition has a request for emergency equipment funding, and that is in the budget for child nutrition that we'll go over in a little bit. Clear Fork LED lights in the gym, and also at Clear Fork rekey in the building. That was a request from the Sheriff's Department as part of our new agreement. Also some cameras at the back of the school. We're not sure yet how that's funded. It's in this budget, but there is some funding that hopefully we'll get from the county commission to help with some of the improvements at Clear Fork, security improvements. Coal City, lighting in the gym, wood door replacements. We try to do a couple school a year with rekeying or door lock or new doors, and Coal City is one of those for next year. Rekey the locks and the door levers as well. Daniels, LED lights in the bathroom, replacing ceiling tiles and track in the cafeteria and kitchen, and also painting the kitchen. Fairdale, LED lights in the gym. Gent.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Since $5,200, we're just putting, I mean, you can't put the LED lights in that gym for $5,200. What are we doing? We're converting, there's a way that we're just converting those structures to LED then?
No, this is just for the lights themselves. We're installing them.
You're installing the bulbs, so they are already LED
Yeah.
fixtures.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to see. There
Yeah.
are LED fixtures.
All of these lighting projects that you see, the reason the cost is lower is our maintenance department is going to be doing the install
Okay.
on these lightings. So this is just for the
I was
actual
gonna say
fixtures.
that's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Gent has a storage building out back. I think it was an old firehouse at one time. It's been a security problem for us because people can easily get into it. So this request is to actually renovate that and make it into a functional storage facility for them to store their equipment and things for the school. That a new metal building would probably be about $8,500, but I don't know that it would even have enough storage. It won't have near the storage of this. It's about 3 times the size. So, additional storage for the classrooms at Gent. This is for shelving and those types of items, isn't it, Eric?
Yes, yes it is.
Okay.
Based on SR1's request, yes, and the teacher's request, yes.
Okay. And as mentioned earlier, you see there 2 requests for health services for registered nurse and LPN aides. I won't discuss the locations, but that's what those are for students that are coming.
New position.
Yes, they are new positions.
Based upon student
Student
needs.
needs,
Yeah.
Based upon
Yeah.
student needs.
individual
I
student
assumed it
needs.
was an
Yeah.
individual student.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hollywood, LED lights for the gym, replacement of an HVAC RTU, a rooftop unit in the back of the school, wall and roof brick ceiling, a new storage building. And I will say, Hollywood also, that one of the reasons for this new storage and building is we're also doing a playground renovation for that school for next year. Well, we'll start on it this year, but Independence High School, this year we're doing tracks and tennis courts at Liberty and Woodrow. Next year we have a track replacement at Independence High School, a fire alarm replacement at Independence High School, and a remodel of the academic restroom, and also softball field lighting. I think this year we're replacing Woodrow's, aren't we, Eric?
Softball field lighting,
Yes, I believe so.
I believe you're correct.
I think so. This is in the office area.
The academic restrooms?
Yeah, for Independence. Are
Oh, I
those?
thought those were the ones in the hallway.
Yeah, I'm assuming, based on the word academic, it's the student restroom.
When you, when
Student,
you
yeah. That's right. But yes, it is a student restroom.
know how to get to them. They have that one,
The one off.
I mean, the men and women.
Over to the cafeteria area, that
Oh, no, I was thinking it,
The one
I
down the hallway.
apologize, I was thinking it was the one down the hallways, like,
one.
if
You
you
know where
go,
the main
and
wing
then you're
is?
gonna make,
Yeah.
yeah,
I know exactly.
I mean,
that was my understanding.
are we doing that ourselves, or, I mean, $10,000, I don't know how much remodel we're doing, but
Yes.
We do
we
them.
can't put a new thing in the house.
Yes, our
We- our
maintenance
maintenance
department
does.
does those. Yes.
A lot of these projects in
Yeah,
there are.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
not good, yeah.
That's how we do it so cheap.
Cost,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, because,
As I said, softball field lighting, a new sound system for the gym.
Yes.
Uh,
That's the.
and a child nutrition request for a new cooler freezer. Their cooler is leaking, so.
It's at the middle school.
Oh, it's a middle school, yeah, sorry. And then, Independence Middle School, also bleacher replacement. They were our second worst set of bleachers, so we will be replacing those next year. Liberty, fire alarm replacement, a partial kitchen renovation. Basically, it's, going to be pulling all the equipment, paint, new ceiling tiles, new flooring, and new equipment. So, also at Liberty, a bleacher replacement and a roof replacement. That'll be a major roof replacement. That'll be next summer. And also at Liberty, remodel the academic restrooms, same as Independence. Mapscot, LED lights in the gym, gym floor resurfacing. This is a maintenance, we're getting into the maintenance projects now, but we do 4 high school, 5 middle, 1 elementary and auditorium, our schedule for gym floor resurfacing. And then, of course, the typical items for maintenance, paving projects, striping. We did have a severe winter, so you do notice those amounts have climbed. We probably doubled our budget this year for those items because of the severity of the winter. Backflow preventer replacements. We're going to start that project. It'll be over 4 years. So you'll see a request for $15,000, but only $30,000 is in the budget because we will do that over the next 4 years. A new F-350 HVAC truck. Every year we usually have a couple of vehicle replacements, mainly because of frames rusting out. But for next year we have an F-350 truck and an F-250 maintenance truck. Portable table saw, a new computer for the carpenter's office, fire curtains in the auditoriums, those are inspections, a 26-foot scissor lift. A lot of times when maintenance gets into our gyms and things, it's hard to get in those high areas, so they do need another lift.
we also gotta be able to get through the door. That's
Yes.
another thing, that.
Yeah, this is a narrow, I think this
they
is the
have- they
narrow
have a
scissor lift.
special When they use it, because, you know, a regular scissor lift's too big, they have to go on, they can fit through the doorway to get into the gym.
Yeah.
You just have to take out the middle console
Yeah.
from the double
Get them in,
doors.
something, yeah.
Next, you'll see funding designated to fix violations that are noted in health department and fire marshal evaluations, asbestos and tile abatement / replacement. This is a new one starting next year. We're starting into year 5. Is that right, Eric? Is that what we?
Started June of 2020, yes.
Yeah, so we're starting into year 5 of our turf fields. So we're gonna start doing an annual maintenance program with our vendor. Come in and touch up the logos. They'll also do the field maintenance and put in the new beads and things that are necessary to keep the fields from getting too hard, so, yeah.
What?
We did two the first year and two second, so some of them have only been.
Yeah,
We're on year 5, year 4.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah, but year 4. Like yesterday.
yeah.
Okay.
Then just general, allocations for restrooms, ceiling tiles, lighting,
Back real quick on that asbestos debate. Do we have any school, I mean, I guess we still have parks and stuff, but most of our schools, are they passed?
we don't have a lot of,
Would have asbestos in them, I would think.
Well, we still have asbestos. Now, if it's in the floors, maybe, but like even, I mean, we have some in the
This building
floors.
here would have, it, I
But
understand. Even-
like,
We haven't used asbestos tile for a long time, I'm saying.
that is correct, but it's not just the tile.
No, it's insulation.
And
wrapping in pipes.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
when we got
But-
ready, to take down the chalkboards at Woodrow a few
Well,
years
we did the
back,
older school job, I thought we did,
and
yeah.
the mastic that was used to hang the chalkboards, that had asbestos in it, so it's, it just depends,
I'm
but
just
we
saying
have
most
those
schools.
asbestos management plans for each school,
Uh-huh.
so each document shows where the asbestos is.
Yeah.
So we still have asbestos,
Right.
not a lot of, I wouldn't think we have a lot of tile left, but we have some.
Yeah.
And then you'll see requests, for door replacements, bleacher repairs, concrete, just typical maintenance, items. There's nothing really left in the maintenance budget that's not typical amounts that we allocate each year for them to budget for, repairs and things. Marsh Fork, playground mats, for the swings. That's something we've had to go back on many of our playgrounds because where the swings are, it pushes out the rubber mulch. So we've started going to playground mats to try to fix that problem. Park Middle, combi oven, that's in the child nutrition budget. And then also, coming back with a roof replacement. That is one of the worst roofs in the county. So we'll be doing that next year. Personnel,
Will the gym be finished next year?
Okay, so last night, I shared that the gym floor is supposed to start being laid down today. Supposed to be. They've tested over the last, well, it started, I think, April 28th. They started testing the humidity, and the humidity's not right. But we haven't been able to put the floor down. However, Radford asked about using a vapor barrier and then laying the floor. So Dave Ferguson has worked with Radford and the company to ensure, yes, this is fine to use the vapor barrier and then put the wood floor down, and it doesn't void the warranty. So it's all supposed to start today.
and Radford is the one paying for the vapor barrier. We're not.
And Radford is very aware that we have to open that gym in the fall. We've mentioned liquidated damages at this point in time. So,
I'm sorry for not being here and then having you.
No. It's a good question, but, we have phase 2 of that project starting, supposed to be starting, and as we've communicated, we can't not be in the gym this fall and not be in classrooms, the band room and the ISS room. We don't have space for the students, so
They're very aware of
very
where we
aware
are.
of this.
Well, and I'm sure you are, because when you drive by there, it just looks like a total mess.
Yes, it is.
I mean,
Hasn't changed.
no, I mean, you can't, of course, haven't been inside to see, but you can't really determine the progress that's been made if you're just,
It,
I mean, a brick here or there maybe. I mean, that's about it.
that's correct.
I'm sorry.
But Dave Ferguson is attending every construction meeting now. He had, one of his representatives comes to every meeting. But, starting at our last meeting, Dave is coming to every one now. And some non-compliance, is that what they're called? NCNs, non-compliance notifications, I think, or non-conformance maybe. Those have been issued on a few items. So,
Well,
moving along.
I sure hope, because those kids and
I agree.
teachers have suffered.
I agree.
I mean, truly. 5 years?
Yeah.
See, that's another one, time just gets by you. I know it's been a long time.
Well, the
but I mean, that
difference
is-
is between that and the other ones, different companies.
Well, so Reclaim tore down
I know,
the old building.
Yes.
that's what I'm saying.
It's
They're-
finished.
They're done.
Yes.
They're done. You go out there and here's, project started 2 years after the other one, it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
Done, the other structure's gone, the old structure's gone, everything's cleaned up, looks fine. Yeah.
Forgive me if Dr. Starch did say that, they estimate it'll take 4 to 5 weeks.
Oh,
The
yes,
gym installation starts today. So we've already been proactive, Mr. Daniel, in trying to coordinate the bleacher install. To try to get it all ready. So our day, we're not looking at the first school day. We're trying to look at the first sports day. So August 11th, so volleyball and cheer.
Right.
That's our goal, yeah. That we're dictating.
Crossed. Sorry.
The next request starts into personnel. They're requesting Frontline Central software. Now, Power Schools is what we're already using for our sub-calling, so that's not a new request. And then IDEMIA as well. For purchasing, a new lift truck and a stretch wrap turntable. That turntable was actually to help them shrink wrap stuff
Yeah.
faster, so that'll be a good addition. Repairing of the garage doors, and also we have a little bit of slippage on the wall there on the upper side of the purchasing where you pull in the garbage, the dumpster is. So we're going to go in there and try to shore up some of that and fix some of the paving. Shady Spring Elementary, outside lighting and new seating for the outdoor classroom. Shady Spring High School, of course, are the other school that we're doing track replacement and also tennis court resurface. Shady Spring Middle, LED lights in the gym and new flooring in the band, choir, and teachers lounge. Special programs, some cubicle spaces that'll allow them to also provide more services, I think, at OSP in those areas. So Stanford, a new serving line, that's in the child nutrition budget. Roof replacement on L section of the building, so it's not a complete roof replacement. LED lighting in the gym and LED lights in the classrooms. I will say on the roof replacements, those are not something that we just haphazardly say we need a roof replacement. We do have a company that monitors our roofs, and actually we have a roofing plan. So they actually prioritize the roofs in the county that need replaced, and then we budget accordingly based on those recommendations from them. Some superintendent requests. And if you look over, all of those relate to safety and security, so I'm not going to go into specifics on it. But if you look over in section 8 of your binders, the second handout,
It's just a doggone big.
I know. I apologize.
I believe they saw this in executive session.
Yes, this is something we went over in executive session on those, but there is annual costs associated with those new security measures, and we estimate an annual need of about $300,000. We have found enough, we have went through our step 7 program budgets, and we have found enough funding, mainly because, as we'll go through the technology requirements, but because we're lessening the technology requirements needed through step 7 for our technology refresh, it has freed up some funding in step 7 through that and some other areas, that we are writing a annual $300,000 project budget for safety and student safety and security. So
It's this page.
we have found a security mechanism in section 8. So just to let you know, that's what the superintendent's requests are in this budget request summary. But they are funded. And then, of course, you have the actual employee costs for some of the items that we'll be doing next year. So there's some additional costs of about $63,000 a year. That'll be funded. Now, that's funded through the county, okay?
All these cameras that are on here, we have new cameras, we have replacing cameras. A lot of those were through the LSI, I mean, it says technology, but a lot of those were probably through the LSIC request, we went out and had a bunch. Request cameras.
Some of them are for the security measures.
Right.
And of course, when you go in and add a lot of cameras, you have servers.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of servers as well. Some of these are through LSIC requests. Some of these are analog systems that are getting replaced. New systems are funded through the excess levy. Replacement systems are funded through our technology budget. Okay?
Well, you had one or Teresa Lewis one, so that's why I was just wondering. Most of them were Rachel, then you have one or Teresa Lewis, for new cameras, that's what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you would see Rachel Pollock, that's what you're looking,
Let's see,
her
Teresa.
department, lots of times along with me, if we identify areas of need
Right.
that maybe didn't come up in LSSC requests, it's that. I'm not sure about this.
Starting into the technology requests, JOT form, that's used for nursing surveys, kindergarten applications, PD surveys, and other surveys we do throughout the county with our staff. Door locks, it does take quite a bit of money each year just to keep our automatic doors operating. So, and then we get into managed methods. That's a software that's a monitoring software. Secure W2, and then you can see replacement cameras, new cameras. And as I said, new cameras are funded through the levy. New camera servers. Apple apps, as we go to MacBooks at the secondary middle school level, we will need some funding for apps. A new van, their van I don't think would pass it. It would not pass inspection. I don't know how they've had it on the road this long, to be honest. So
We need a new one.
we need a new van. Yeah. And then just some pay for teachers who participate in weekend code.org training, incident IQ, innovation team training, STEM training. Intercoms, each year we usually have an intercom or system or two that go down.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
On technology trainings, you see, I know they don't total much, but I think it's 14,000. I'm only bringing this up because Title II has been zeroed out in the president's budget from what we've been told. So we won't know, as I said last night, until probably July about our federal budgets. But I just want you to be aware, we may have to either change the funding source on some of these trainings or not do some of the trainings. It will just depend on the flow of federal dollars. So I did want to make sure you knew that.
Next, we have a couple items that's funded through step 7. That's Magic School and Schoolology.
Yes, sir.
We need probably note for that.
Yes. 8:46.
Right.
He will be back.
I know, but just.
The next request is for a computer tech. As you know, we've, one of our contracted computer people is, he's still contracting with us some, but he says June 30th, he's actually retiring, so, yeah. He has been here a long time, so, that would require us to possibly hire another computer tech, so.
We are also looking at restructuring the department a little. And it's likely you'll see a different, a position posted Monday that has somewhat different responsibilities than the existing vacancy we have. So I'm working with Ms. Polly on that, and trying to restructure as she sees necessary.
That's fine for your vote.
And, you know, yes.
Next is a request for parts, service, chargers, cables. We have a technology repair fund for that, so that's where that's be funded from. And also warranty, repair costs for broken devices. These are not for the Apple devices, they're under Apple Cares for other devices that we may have breakage on. Transportation is not a lot. An awning at the Liberty High Fueling Station. There's not an area for the driver to get out of the weather, so they have requested that. A mini split heating AC unit in the supervisor's office, and a roof replacement on the wash bay.
I have a question, and I apologize in advance if this has been addressed in my absence. What's the status of that transportation study that we voted on and approved and,
It's good.
I mean,
It's complete. We've actually given them a couple of dates. Have they confirmed which date to come and present at a board meeting?
so it's,
It's complete.
they have completed it
Yes.
totally. Well, that would be real interesting to see the results. See what
Yes, we've seen it. We had a call last week, a Teams meeting last week with them. And we waited until Chris Toney was out of the session so that he could be at the meeting. And so he's now available, obviously, to be at board meetings. But I don't know, have they confirmed which
They
day?
have not. So what we asked them to do on our call, Mr. Tony, myself, Dr. Starcher, for them to come in person and present to you guys. And we gave them some dates of upcoming board meetings. And they're supposed to get back to us on when they can get here. Yeah, so they can give you their report.
Okay. Be interesting.
The next thing is Trap Hill, window shade replacement. That project's already started. LED lighting in the gym, and then new flooring in the office area. At Woodrow,
That's the one that got taped together down there. It's perfect office. You go in there.
I believe so, yeah, it's in bad shape.
Yeah.
The other day.
Yeah, you there, okay, I was there going at it. Man, it's.
Woodrow Wilson, kitchen dry storage mini split, that's an HVAC unit. Correct some drainage issues in the triangle and softball field. That's when you pull into Woodrow, that area that always accumulates all that water right there in front of the auditorium. We bored that out last year, but that's not going to solve the problem, so we're going to try to fix it this summer. And then replacing a sewer lift station at the auditorium. That completes the item 1 issues. There is one item 2 issue that you'll see there for ACT. As you know, we submitted a MIP request to the School Building Authority for that project. That's about a $5.6 million total project, or no,
4.5.
4.5, because there's some parts of that we'll do ourselves. But about $4.5 million project. We're hoping to get $1 million from the SBA, and then we would fund the rest of that project, so. That was a request that we had for maintenance, and then once we, started talking about it and had it analyzed and reviewed, it turned into a lot bigger problem than we anticipated, so.
You guys experienced something like that. When the air, yeah. So they were on site, SBA just, last week.
It was after that one, it was after that banquet, I remember telling them it didn't work a thing.
So if you go to the last page of, now, the rest of those are items that I'll give you a few moments here to look over and see if there's any you want to change the priorities of. But on the last page of the summary, we had $53.7 million worth of budget requests. Okay. Of those requests, $4 million would be funded contingent upon carryover. That's for the ACT project. $9.5 million are actually funded in this budget. So 25% of the requests are actually funded for next year. And that percentage is actually a little bit better than we typically see. We usually see 17 to 20%. So that has increased a little bit. Of those, 277,000 are salary requests. 4.7 million are funded through other sources other than the general fund, which is permanent improvement or capital projects or even state funding. And then 4.5 million is what's actually funded in this budget file and through the general fund. So I'll give you a few moments to go over.
Go
Yes.
through it here and see it. Normally, I know we do address this. We have a number of requests, I've seen maybe 4 or 5. Safe schools, entrance. We normally do one of some of those a year, but I don't see we're doing any this year. Is that just cost-wise, or those aren't the ones that are there not, we don't think are that relevant, or, I mean, we try to pick, eventually to get them all done, I guess what I'm trying to say.
I think the probably the gist of the reason why you don't see those in next year's budget is because of the amount of funding expended this year for security measures, safety and security measures next year.
Yeah.
So that's why you're not seeing necessarily one of those in this budget. So
And our plan, unless the board would say otherwise, our plan is to take the Woodrow project back in the fall
Uh-huh.
to the SBA, and that would give us one more safe school entrance.
Right.
If we receive that funding. Now, I will tell the board, the SBA is coming June 4th to visit Woodrow. Mr. Neptune and Mr. Womack are both coming, so that's a positive.
Good. The reason I just brought it up was that's something we tried to.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have really what we used to have one there for school, but now we've done it. I saw Trap Hill Middle had one on there, and a bunch of grade schools had some of them, And some of those schools like Trap Hill Middle, it says $800,000 on this. You already have like a double door man trap anyway. I don't know how expensive that would be to cut it out thing in the office, but maybe I'm not looking.
well, I think that's historically how we've looked at safe school entrances. Is there something within the current setup of the facility that allows us to put the door locks and maybe a door into the office or something to address that?
Basically at Liberty.
Liberty
Yeah.
and Independence.
Yeah, yeah.
We were able to
Yeah,
manage.
but the good thing is that the safety things that are in the current budget,
Affect everyone.
Every-
Yeah.
Right,
and we'll add another layer.
Yeah.
So I agree, that's one thing that we should continue to
Yes.
look at, but for next year, I fully understand why there's not one in here.
Yeah.
Right.
Because this other needs to be done first.
Well, and we still have a system. It's not a
Yeah.
man trap. We still have a system.
Yeah,
And
correct.
you still have to we buzz people, and it's still a system.
and I'll have these extra layer of security.
Right.
Something like that, I don't see where the trap deal situation would be that much money, because you already have these 2 sets of owners.
Yeah.
Should just be a matter of locks. We printed this big for old people, so they can read that.
I know, I told Aaron, thanks. I
And
know he
we
was
call
getting
the
old
board
too.
all senior citizens.
It's
Medicare eligible.
better.
There you go.
Be nice in a perfect world if we had enough money to do everything that needed to be done.
Yes, the one thing I also just would remind the board, on the back, at the end, when you see the fours, the priority fours, those are completed this year. So the ones are what we're proposing for next year, the fours are complete. So it's just the twos and the threes, that we would either said would be, a secondary, maybe we'd like to do it, but we can't this year, or then not a priority at this point.
I think we are so very fortunate, and a shout out to our maintenance department,
Yes.
that we can even do the number of things we do. Because
Yeah.
we didn't have those, we didn't have those people out there, and as skilled as all of them are,
They're amazing.
there is no way that we would be able to.
And the
Numbers
willingness,
being so low, I mean, we don't have that many maintenance guys.
well, let's talk about that, also
They do an
the,
amazing job.
their willingness to work over and when students aren't in the building, we have things that are going on there. They really do a wonderful job for
Well,
us.
the other thing you'll see is unlike some contractors that we use, their work is always top notch.
Yes.
I mean, I've looked at them, even when we were doing the football fields and they had to do their little part and everything else. All the work that we did, I say we, the board maintenance did. They were there waiting on someone else to get their stuff done.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
were-
they take great
they-
pride.
I was
Yeah.
saying that exactly. They take great pride in their work.
And I think Raleigh County, Darren, you could probably agree with this too, that one of the big assets of Raleigh County Schools has always been their maintenance department.
Yes.
Because throughout the years, I mean, they have continued to work and to keep us where we need to be.
Well, and-
Getting us there anyway.
And they're a major part of implementing these plans. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the work that goes into what we do now helps us manage the next year projects is because they identify things and help us to move along and fix the critical needs we have in the county, so.
Most often, we're proactive,
Right,
Right, oh yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
and that's
That's a
because,
great way of putting it.
that's because of them.
Yeah, I'm very grateful and thankful.
I'm giving you all a few minutes to look over the rest of those budget requests, and then we'll move on to the next section here.
Yeah, the ones I always, this is, like kids giving me the Christmas list, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Christmas.
It is.
But you get to buy
Yeah,
everything.
Santa Claus, yeah, no, yeah, Santa Claus is there, yeah.
There's a lot of needs. Like you said, I wish we could address all of our needs, but we have a lot of buildings in Raleigh County. And so, as you can see through our budget plan, we try to address needs not in specific areas, but based on the needs of the buildings
Well,
that
but
we
again,
have to
take it from
maintain.
someone that's been in a lot of county school systems across the state. We're right there at the top as far as maintenance and our facilities, and I think we're.
Yeah, I
they're
think so,
among the
too.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and then the thing of it is, I guess I show my age, I can remember when a roof, maybe 200,000 if that, and then maybe we get a deal on something, turned out, now we're talking $1 million something. HVACs, what do you say, $4.5 million for down there, I mean.
Probably built a facility for almost,
Yeah,
for not
well,
much
what
more
I'm
than
saying,
that.
We built a school for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Independence Mill, for one.
Yeah, yeah.
Not counting their
Yeah.
HVAC and roof.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just inflationary costs, and those items went up during COVID, and once it went up, it never came back down. Not going to, so.
And you can see through the sheer number of items that are in these requests. I mean, when you think about being able to manage a plan that gets all of this accomplished in a year, a lot of people have their hands in managing these and making sure things get done, and it really is a team approach, and maintenance is certainly a critical part of that.
Well, and you know as well as I do, even though some of these items are not ones or, if they're out there working on that and they see the
Oh,
other
yeah.
item, those items are a lot of times completed too.
Yes, yes.
That's what happens. So they're very responsive to that.
So the next thing I gave you was a couple handouts, keeping in line with capital projects and items that we're working on currently. The first is a one-page handout that looks at fund balance analysis in a general fund. And over in the right-hand column for FY24, this is the last fiscal year, we ended the year with $92.2 million of total fund balance. Okay, well, that's everybody looks at that number and thinks, well, you've got all this money sitting out there, right? So you got to look at the individual components of fund balance to understand what is really available to you. Of that amount, $7,584 was non-spendable. That's a prepaid item. 44.7 million is restricted, meaning you can't. It's not unassigned. It's restricted for a specific purpose. 18.9 million was assigned, and that's mainly for excess levy projects, and also the amount that's required to balance the budget, so that $8 million figures into that 18.9 million. And then that leaves you with a general unassigned fund balance of 28.6 million. Okay, so as a percentage of total general fund revenues of 166 million, that's about 17.2%. Well, where does that fall? Well, if you look at Standard & Poor's, they view available fund balance when looking at bond ratings as a percentage of expenditures, low being 0%, 1 to 4% being adequate, 4 to 8% being good, 8 to 15% being strong, and above 15% being very strong. In Raleigh County, we're fortunate that over the years we have built our fund balance to the level where it's very strong. And that affords us the opportunity to have funding available for capital projects and other projects that need to be done throughout the district. So if you're looking at contingency reserves at 6/30 of 24, they were about 21%. Okay, that's well above the very strong amount. As today, as we looked at as of April 30th, is about 17.23%. So we're still in that very strong range. The next section is, if you had to reduce contingency reserves to fund a major construction project, what would that look like? Well, 5% would be about 1.1 million, and that would take you down to 21 million. And you can see 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 50%. How much funding each of those percentages, 5% increments would give you. I say that because the next handout is a 2-page handout that looks at a 5-year snapshot, looking at today, and the projects that we know are currently there or will be done in the next 5 years. How does that equate with our permanent improvement funding and our capital projects fund? So the first column there looks at the current fiscal year, where we are as of April the 30th. We had unrestricted permanent improvement of about 1.8 million, real property funding of about 382,000, turf replacement reserves of 1.2 million. We have playground projects funding set aside for Stanford, for Cranberry, for Hollywood. And then the major one, which is one that we're currently working on now, is the Daniels Playground. That's going to require some excavation work, rerouting of the bus loop, new fencing, and then that's phase 1 of that project, and then we'll follow up with phase 2. But you can see it's a significant expenditure, and I do not believe that this will cover everything. The money allocated here will cover the equipment piece, then probably the fencing and bus loop, that type thing, but I don't think it'll cover the total project cost. So right now that project is estimated at $800,000 or almost $900,000. But it is an extensive project. We hope by rerouting the bus loop, that will alleviate some of the congestion for pickup. It'll be an extended bus loop that'll extend out and go around the new play area. So it'll be a lot larger loop.
Correct.
It's for parents. It's
Yeah,
for
I'm sorry,
pickup.
parents. Yeah, parents. I'm sorry.
It goes around the back.
Back.
And
I was gonna ask you.
it's gonna,
Well,
it
actually-
already does, but it still gets really.
Right now, it
robust,
cuts
so
off right
it's-
there at the school building. The new plan would be to take it on out around, there's a wooded area there now. That'll be the new playground area, and it'll extend beyond that and come out.
We always had a problem, I thought we didn't have enough property, but we do have enough property, because there was always a,
We did.
Yes.
Got a survey.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
because there was always a big, you remember that, there was a thing on that.
So-
And wetlands too was a big problem.
Yeah.
You already, I'm
Yes.
sure you
Yeah.
know that. Okay. Yeah, that was always.
Right now, the playground is off to the left, which is a drainage, real drainage issue.
The pre-K, you mean?
Yeah, the pre-K,
Yes, the
yeah.
pre-K's off at the left.
Stays wet all the time. So this plan moves the 512 play area to this new area, and the existing 512 area would then become our new pre-K area once we're finished.
Currently, and Dr. Hutchins probably knows this, there isn't enough, I'll say, play space, like what you think of a playground for the student body. Right now, they divide it into 4 groups. When the classes are out there, they have to divide it into 4 groups, and one set plays on the asphalt right there behind the kitchen where the deliveries occur. So the teachers have to be very vigilant to watch for the delivery trucks coming in. You know, obviously students can't be around the delivery trucks. So anyway, this will provide for it'll provide for a true playground, the entire recess, and it'll be out of that area where we know we have delivery trucks.
And we're hopeful that throughout the construction phase, we'll be able to keep most of the play area, current play
Yes.
areas open. So they'll still have a play area.
Currently at times too, when we went out to explore this, they're across the road playing, if you can envision, if I'm going around the back of the school in the parent loop, on the side of the hill, over on the right, they're down on the hillside too, because correct, that when you get back there, there's not as much room as you think.
No, there's not.
But the good thing is, at least I was surprised at how much property we do own, back there behind the fence, that, where we could expand.
Okay. 'Cause that was always, I mean, we even had trouble, remember, we had to have to sign in, we had to
Yeah,
go.
some of us in the front there.
We couldn't surround some properties, and you got the power line going through there, you've got a number of different things, plus the wet, there's just a number of different.
And I'll say, we are working with ZMM on
Yes.
this, just to make sure the plans are what we need them to be,
Yeah,
addressing any issues like you're mentioning.
right.
I mean,
We're
obviously, we'll pick the
Yeah.
playground equipment and so forth, but the land piece, the excavation
That's-
piece, we're working with them to make sure we do it correct.
One other thing, the 5 through 12 area now has that,
Board in place.
poured in place fall surface
Yeah.
instead of rubber mulch. Well, that is beginning to dry rot and just come apart.
Yeah, they were so,
We said that.
they were so proud that we
said
put that
that.
down, but it didn't last.
Now, this new plan, if you're looking at the end of the building, the new plan would actually attach fencing to the building. You'd walk straight out onto the play area. So
Be a lot safer.
be a lot safer for
Yeah,
students.
because there was a
Yeah.
problem back there about a gate or something one time about kids coming and going back.
Oh, the one gate that she has,
Yeah.
yes, and she's actually asked for a second gate for use in an emergency
In
situation.
case we need to get away from school, the others.
But really, this playground will be, by the time it's done, it'll be a long ways from the building if something would happen. But there's egress. We'll have egress on those.
The current gate you're talking about, due to just Mother Nature and runoff, it routinely builds up. You can't open the gate.
Right, that's what I was
in
thinking.
case of
I knew it was a
emergency
problem.
to get off the property.
Right.
Our maintenance department cleaned it all out last year,
Uh-huh.
and then when Gary and I and Mr. Butcher were over there again looking at this, and I can remember you were with us,
I
Rob,
was there.
it was already back to the point where you could barely open the gate again,
Yeah.
just due to runoff.
So that's a major project we'll have going on. We'll probably go to bid here within the next month or so to get the clearing and stuff done. And then, of course, this year we're doing track replacements at Liberty and Woodrow.
The freezer addition, are we at the warehouse?
So
Lost.
that's in here, the freezer edition. We're still evaluating CEP.
Okay.
We still have a need there for
So we'll be able to go
this
in there.
trailer we got.
They said they could go in there with pallets and do stuff and things.
Yeah. So we're still evaluating that. Of course, I have our purchasing director and child nutrition director both giving us updates to make sure we're still good. Right now, we're good. I think that the problem comes into trying to basically hold, especially USDA food deliveries can sometimes be problematic and cause congestion.
When they get the USDA food
Yeah.
delivery.
That's the other problem. I mean, we just don't know federally what's going
Yeah.
to happen with our federal funds.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything yet about our child nutrition funds, but you may know something. If the federal government would tinker with that, I don't know that we could continue CP. I mean, we just don't know.
So we're kind of in a holding phase right now, I guess would be the best way to put it on that. The funding is there whenever we would need to do that, but we're just kind of holding on that. Capital projects, Stratton Elementary, we have a little bit of retainage still sitting out there that we'll clear that up probably this month or next. Shade Spring Elementary, the same thing, the fencing contractor are having a little bit of trouble getting that one cleared up.
How about our road?
Oh, my.
I'd like to bring stuff up. I think that.
So, probably about a month ago or so, I reached out to the attorney and, he hadn't moved forward with it. But he wanted to know, based on our winter, was the road still pumping? So Mr. Daniel arranged, I think Brandon Scrow took the garbage truck loaded down out to the project, drove it across, and it was still pumping. So we did a video of it and sent it to the attorney, and we actually sent it to Dave Ferguson as well. So Dave is trying to push the attorney along to get Thrasher and Verco, those are the two contractors, out on site and come to some decision about how they're going to fix the road.
Who's our representative?
Well, okay, our representative, his name is Bo Sweeney. That's not the name of his firm. It's something Fenster Maker or Fenster Marker out of Huntington. But Randy Jones, if you recall, he was the architect. I can't remember if it was still OWPR or ZMM when that project started, but I've begun communicating with Dave Ferguson out of the Charleston office, and he's working with Mr. Sweeney to push this along.
The next thing is the Park Middle Gym replacement, STEM lab. This is the first phase of the project. You can see we currently have set aside $2.4 million. We will need another $1 million on that project, and the reason for that is the concession stand, the new fencing, auditorium. So we will have some change orders coming through on that we anticipate will be around $1 million. If you recall, the fencing.
Might be absorbed by somebody else.
Well, if you,
Remember,
yeah, well, true. If you recall, the fencing become necessary because of the slope,
Yeah.
because the building is so close to the sidewalk, and so that's the reason for the new fencing. Of course, we have funding set aside for Woodrow Wilson High School renovations, and you can see each of these I'm forecasting out when we anticipate that those expenditures would occur in the next 5-year plan. Phase 2 of Park, $2.6 million. We anticipate, hopefully, most of this project to be completed by the end of next fiscal year, but, I mean, based on history, we don't know. The water line project at Woodrow, the 249, that is what is remaining in retention, so there'll be a little bit of funding left over. The new parking at Stratton, same thing, we're wrapping that up now, we're waiting on the contractor now to get their fencing, we've installed the new cameras, and that project is essentially completed, with the
They aren't
exception.
using their parking lot yet, are they?
We've had the fencing up, waiting the installation of the cameras. We weren't gonna open that parking area up until we had
We
that.
strategically did it, not until we had the cameras up,
Okay.
not to use it, but as Mr.
Yeah.
Fletcher just said, we just finished that camera installation last week. Yes, so we plan to start using it with the removal of the fence.
Do we have cameras on the playground too?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
sir.
A lot of cameras.
That-
I mean, it's a beautiful playground and I love the thing, but I've even had some local people from that area concerned about us leaving it open. Because
I've had people approach me too and
Yeah.
ask why we did that.
yeah, and I said,
They're
no,
afraid they're going to destroy
Oh, yeah,
something.
yeah.
And it gets a lot of use. I
But
mean,
it
I see
does, there's a
people
lot
there
of-
lot.
I think community was one of the main drivers, that whenever we built the building,
That wanted it open.
they
They
wanted
wanted
it
it
open.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was, I mean, Mr. Price had assembled a committee,
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
that area, and, they
Oh, it's- I mean,
wanted the
I think it's a
playground
great
looked
thing,
open.
it's utilized and everything like that, I just wanna make sure we do have some surveillance on it.
Well, and as long as there's not a lot of destruction,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for keeping it open because it does get so much use for the.
Well, and we spoke, I mean, I've had some of the neighbors stop me when I would be out there and concerned about both the lighting of the facility and cameras and, they wanted assurance that at night that facility was gonna be well lit, there was gonna be adequate camera coverage because, they wanted to feel secure in their community, so. That was one of the things when we designed it that we were very careful with, was the lighting and camera usage out there, so.
And I'll say, I think there's sometimes a perception across the county that we routinely lock our elementary playgrounds after hours. We do not.
No, we do not.
We do not.
Very few.
I've taken grandkids to every playground, well, not every playground, but the nice ones in this county.
Yeah.
Get on the fair all the time, Maxwell Hill has a nice one out there. Coal City used to have a really nice one out there and stuff, we used to go there, I mean, they're great for, kids in the community stuff to go out and play on.
Well, and the taxpayers fund these,
Right.
additions to our facilities and,
Ridgeview is locked.
yeah.
Yeah, Ridgeview.
Ridgeview is locked. Clear Fork is locked.
But out to gate Ridgeview.
And,
yeah.
and Ridgeview, yes, the gate is locked at Ridgeview. But it's up there,
It's so far away.
it's kind of
Remote,
secluded from
Yeah.
everything. So, most of them are open.
Now, this plan assumes about a $3.5 million carryover per year for capital projects and permanent improvement. In the past, it's been about 8.9, so being conservative here in terms of the funding needed for the carryover. We are increasing the allotment for playgrounds to 300,000. We had it at 150 and 200, now 300. It's astounding. It's like roofs and HVACs.
Yeah, you know.
It is astounding at the cost increases of items, and so,
Darren, since, you guys have started that playground project, how many have you?
well, actually,
had to redo?
I have Jennifer working on a summary of that, but we've touched most all of our playgrounds with some form of equipment. But, we still have a lot of need. Cranberry, for instance, has a lot of need. Fairdale, we replaced the pre-K. 512 needs some work at Fairdale. So as we go forward, we're finding there's still a lot of need, and every few years we have to go back and redo the mulch and the borders or
I'll
whatever.
tell you one
so-
thing, probably one of the most physical playgrounds we have. It's Maxwell Hill, because everybody drives through that shortcut right here. That thing looks awesome.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
I mean, you can just go through the schools though, like the shady area, once we do Daniels, the shady area would be complete. The Independence area is complete. Fairdale, as Darren mentioned, we need to do some work on the 512, but other than that, the Liberty area is complete. And in several of the Beckley area,
We have
Our-
Crescent, we have a lot of need at
good.
Crescent.
Crescent really needs some work, but
Yeah,
that's,
Crescent.
we're looking at that
It's
maybe
not
for
a good
next year.
area back there.
But I think,
We improved the one in Clearfork, I mean, the Clearfork,
Yes.
they did a good job down there.
I included that as the Liberty area.
Yeah, I know,
So,
I
yes,
know.
Liberty, Clear Fork and Marsh Fork,
Well, that'd be part
they're
of it.
good.
well, I mean, as a board, I mean, there's been a
Bradley
lot
is
of
good.
funds allocated. I mean, I think we all value student play and the ability of students to be able to have a good playing surface and safe playing surface. So this has been a really good program. I mean, this has been in place for the last at least 12 years, I believe. Probably about 12 years ago, we started this, and we've made a lot of really good progress in the county with our playgrounds. So,
I think beyond the, go ahead. Beyond the ones we're doing that are in this, in this budget, I think Crescent and Cranberry
yeah,
are probably our two,
yeah, we're
most
getting
need-
ready to do Stanford, Hollywood, and Cranberry.
well, Cranberry swings.
Just swings at Cranberry right now, yes. Those are the three, and Daniels.
Daniels,
So,
yeah.
and then that'll do our 24 and 25 grants complete. So we'll be caught up again. So
We have to figure out the Crescent playground because you know it has that,
Dip in the
Dip,
back, yeah.
and we have to have a separate pre-K playground, based on pre-K standards. That playground is supposed to be separate, fenced off from the rest. So just being able to lay out the playground.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
Crescent will be problematic just by the way.
Yes, and those, from what I understand, that area that goes down, they like to run, they like to slide down it in the winter, you know, they make use of that.
Yeah,
So just trying to lay out a playground on that piece of property is gonna be a challenge.
Parent pickup is around. the back of the
Exactly.
building too, isn't it?
Yes.
yeah, and it runs
So-
right through the middle of the playground. So we may have a similar situation to
It's
Daniels.
also on Crescent Road.
It would be nice to have a situation similar to Daniels where we could extend that loop and alleviate some of that traffic, but I don't know that the
And I
terrain will
don't think
allow
have
that.
Property there or
Yeah.
anything, because you have those houses.
Right.
Correct.
That roll up to the playground in the back.
That's correct. So that one's gonna be trickier for us to do.
Part of Maxwell Hills too, to go on what you were saying, that showcases their play area is the custodial staff there too.
yeah,
They do a tremendous job, Mr. Punis, folks of taking care of the grass.
Oh, yeah.
It's always.
oh, we did all down, I was like, bank, they had to,
Absolutely.
man, I didn't give my house away, they weeded that bank around, behind the backstop and everything
Yes,
through there, man, that
they
was
really
awesome.
showcase it.
And then, you know, of course, turf fields are similar to playgrounds. We set aside funding every year for those. And it looks like in 3 to 4 years, we'll be looking at, you know, having to come back and resurface those. And then some other things we've got to consider in this plan, ACT 3.5 million, that would occur in FY '26 if we would get funded. Beckley Elementary, a new gym, the funding is here, set aside, but you know, where we are in that, I don't know right now. As a part of the Woodrow Wilson project that, you know, we hope to get funded for, we're looking at coming in behind that project and then doing, renovations to E-Wing, for expansion of our AB program and some other things. And then you'll see 3 there that doesn't have any funding. Those are roof replacements that are funded through the excess levy. And in our second page here in a minute, it'll just go into the total capital improvement cost that the county is expending over the next 5 years. Then, of course, FY '26 track replacements at Independence, a large roof replacement at Liberty, track replacement at Shady, tennis court rehabilitation at Shady. So, looking at where we are now, we have about $28.9 million set aside for capital projects, permanent improvements. 17.8 million would be expended in FY '26. 9.8 million, 27. My numbers are wrong. I have to redo my numbers here. It's, should be a lot significantly more than that. And then 3.1 million in 29. So it looks like in 2030, we do have a, contingency reserve need of 1.9 million. But again, these are conservative estimates. So I think, what I would say is, I think we'll get there without the need to use contingency reserves. The only thing I see that, we would possibly need contingency reserves for, if we actually did the Beckley Elementary project, for instance, that would be $8 million. We'd have to determine the funding and how we would come up with that, and I don't think we'd be able to get there with permanent improvement funds. And then, of course, the E-wing project, you know, will we have enough funding when we get done with Woodrow to do that? We anticipate that project to be a $30 million project. County contributions of about 15 million. So where that project ends at, you know, we don't have the final designs, we don't have bids. So that's what we're anticipating that project to be. So that may be another project where we'd have to look at that.
We were,
Yes, but
but the SBA was not supportive of that, of demoing e-building last year. They still didn't fund the project, but the authority members were not supportive of demoing e-building. So we have a couple of ideas of how we can repurpose e-building and actually meet needs of the school system. So,
Instead of being just kind of vacant.
oh yes,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
would
we-
not be
it
vacant.
would not be vacant.
It would not be vacant. We have a couple of different ideas. And I think either idea will be good for the school system. One idea involves, I think Mr. Butcher said it, bringing the ABE program onto campuses. Right now, you know, we rent space in Beckley for that. And perhaps being able to expand some of what we offer at ACT in that building. And then we have another idea about how we might be able to expand what we offer to high school students. Not necessarily career tech, but what we may be able to offer high school students. We're still fleshing that out, but I'll be sharing that with you once we have a little more detail. But basically, I don't have too much detail to share today, but perhaps offering, I know we don't have magnet schools necessarily, but having a center like ACT where we do career tech there, but maybe students could come and have, maybe it's a school that's focused on the arts or a school that's focused on STEM or what have you, but having more opportunities for the high school students in the county to come to a central location like we do at ACT, but for other opportunities. Again, you know, we're in a world now where we really need to think outside of the box and be able to compete with other opportunities for students. You know, what makes us
Unique.
more attractive or unique? What opportunities can we provide that maybe others can't? I will always believe that, as superintendent, I'm always going to believe public education is the best. But, you know, there are a lot of other opportunities for students now, and we need to think about what can we do differently to attract students and families, to keep them here. So we have some different ideas for e-building, and I'd like, once we have all of the details worked out for our different options, obviously we'd want to share them with you and see what you would like to see us do as a school system.
The 3.4 million set aside here, if we go back in and rehab that building, that's a new roof, HVAC, new windows, and then reconfiguring some of the interior spaces to make it more conducive to whatever programs we would want to add. So that's what that funding is set aside for. On page 2, so over the next 5 years, we're projecting $33.2 million of school construction, 2.9 million in playgrounds, 4.4 million in roofs, 1.2 million in turf, 3.2 million track and tennis, and then 1.5 million in auxiliary improvements. So total facility and infrastructure improvements of about $46.6 million over the next 5 years.
Like $3 million to do playgrounds.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're expensive.
Playground, especially when, rehabbing a playground is moderately expensive. Doing a new pre-K 5-12 playground it's exorbitant. It really is.
The good thing is about that, you can see that money
Yes.
and you can experience that money.
Yeah.
It's costs a lot of heartburn when you're doing 4.5 on HVAC or a water line
Nobody knows.
or a roof. You don't even see it, you don't care about it until you don't have it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
or
That's
you're not in that building.
right, that's right.
Oh, I think they need to take a break.
Okay.
Oh, let me say,
Take care.
you want to take a break?
Why are you talking about, so, I was going to say.
Would you like a little break?
Huh?
Would you
Yeah,
like a break?
Yeah, we can go to break.
Let me, ask them to pause this, okay?
If you do need to speak, you have to have your mics on.
Okay, so our next item we want to talk about is virtual school. I believe Mr. Butcher gave each of you this document. So as you know, virtual started in term to support the alternative and homebound programs at our secondary level, and COVID allowed caused us really to expand virtual, just to have virtual learning. And we've continued that. We've expanded in terms of enrollment over the last few years. Earlier this year, well, let me stop with that. You can see on page 1, phase 1 shows that traditional virtual school was for alternative and virtual. And if you look at your numbers, October total virtual headcount, we had a total of 149 students this past October. 30 of those were alternative placements. So really, we had 119 students that had chosen to be on virtual. And you can see based on about $6,000 that we received in state aid, you can see the amount there that we were receiving, which supports our staffing in virtual. Well, we were receiving a lot of calls, and obviously Ms. Hodges and I, if you'll remember, we meet with every student who would like to drop out or is considering dropping out, and we had several of them expressing an interest in signing up for virtual, but our policy didn't allow it at that point. You had to sign up at the semester. Well, we did away with that requirement. In doing away or in eliminating that requirement, we are now up to about 330 students, okay? That's how much virtual has grown this year, but we had to cap it. We had to stop enrollment again. Our virtual teachers they can't manage more students than that. 330 is a lot of students. There's one section of students, 75 students in one class. So anyway, we had to halt or pause enrollment in virtual. So as Ms. Hodges, Mr. Butcher, and I have talked about virtual school and not wanting to have to pause or deny students enrollment in virtual school, we're coming today to talk with you about expanding our staffing for virtual. Right now, just as a reminder, we have our 4 core teachers. They're all fully certified, but we have math, science, social studies, and English. And then we have a full-time special educator. So we have the 5 full-time staff members. They're all situated in this, 4 are situated in this building currently. The special educator's moving here next year. And then Ms. Hodges, over the last this half of the year, she has been coordinating virtual school. So that's where we are. If you flip to page 2 of the handout, you can see, I said 330, I meant to say 313. You can see 313 there. But we paused enrollment. Now, then you can see 93, we've grown from 30 to 93 students that are placed for alternatives. So now we're at 220. So that's about a growth of about 100 from the fall to the spring. But again, we had to pause enrollment. We just couldn't, our staff couldn't manage anymore. So then you can see the state aid that we would be receiving for those students. So if you look down, in order to continue expanding or to grow, in order to grow virtual, we would like to add another set of core teachers, English, science, math, social studies, 4 more. That's the first thing I'd say. We'd like to add those 4 and another special education teacher, but I want to come back to special ed in a moment. The other thing we would like to do is start looking at the expansion to have fully certified teachers of the electives. Right now, for electives, we use the Edmentum platform, so the students don't have a live teacher in any capacity. Right now, high school students have live classes, I believe it's Monday, Wednesday, they have to log on and participate. And then the middle school students are Tuesday, Thursday, have to log on. So they're receiving live instruction from our teachers. In terms of the electives, art, music, PE health, computers, those are all done through the Edmentum platform. There's no live instruction. And as Ms. Hodges has reported, students are either doing well in those classes or they're not doing anything in the classes. So we would like to look at expanding this year, just start with one electives teacher to see if the program continues to grow. We're thinking we would like to add an art teacher. If we could find an art and computers teacher or an art and music teacher, like a dual classified or dual certified, we would love to have that. But that would allow us to have live teachers for our electives. And if the program grows, next year I'd probably be back saying, could we add one more elective teacher? Because we truly believe the live teaching is of great benefit for our students. But we want to make sure we have the enrollment to support the continued expansion of virtual. So we'd like to add an art teacher, or let me just say an electives teacher. We'd like to add an electives teacher.
But when you think about it, what you're saying, it's really interesting, because you're saying that you get better response and the students on virtual will relate better to a live teacher.
Yes, I
But
know.
they're virtual students
Yes, you're
and
right.
have chosen to be virtual, which is almost opposite, is it not? I mean,
I think it's the support, when it's completely virtual, like some virtual programs are, even though they want to be virtual, they want to be at home doing their classwork, they don't want to report to school, it's still the support and the instruction provided by that teacher.
it's just really interesting to me, though, that live teacher.
I'll use this as an example. I was speaking with Ms. Hodges earlier this week, and we had a parent, this is a parent of a student who's participating in another virtual school. And, but it's a child that lives here in Raleigh County. And the parent was trying to interact with this other virtual school, had some questions, needed answered, needed some support for child. And couldn't get an answer. So called here, and Ms. Hodges then, even though students not enrolled in Raleigh County, Ms. Hodges started reaching out. And finally, this other place called the parent to address the situation or to provide some help.
Because I think the parent wanted to actually enroll in Raleigh County, but we don't have any space for them.
Right. So I think, yes, parents and some students, they want the virtual school option, but the supports we provide and the instruction we provide, I believe, are, they like that part
So
of it.
it's really the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Well, and also,
I mean,
as a parent, you would like a little accountability. I mean, on a completely virtual thing, you assume your kid's doing something you don't know, no one's checking
Yeah.
anything. And you have to log in twice a week, someone is a little accountability that you did log in, you are doing something. Because lots of the parents aren't there,
That's correct.
Oh, I agree.
That's correct.
and so this gives them a little bit of a,
Like I said, the best of both worlds.
right, yeah.
And one thing we've done, since Ms. Hodges started coordinating a virtual school this semester, the meaningful contact for attendance, Ms. Hodges is doing that with every student and family that's not attending the 2 times per week. That's in policy, that is, that counts towards attendance, so she has done an excellent job communicating with that meaningful contact. Now, with that said, it's overwhelming. Ms. Hodges is spending an exorbitant amount of time running the virtual school program, especially with the expansion of it. So, if we would do this expansion, I mentioned earlier that I'd come back to the special education teacher. Talked with Mr. Sexton. We would like to consider making that a halftime special ed teacher, halftime coordinator of virtual school. I know we didn't fill the full-time coordinator position when Ms. Williams vacated that earlier this year. If we continue to expand virtual, Ms. Hodges can't do all of that and do her other job. It's just becoming so much. Where we don't just allow students to start at the semester, we allow them to start throughout now. We have to have orientations. I think they're held every Friday maybe. They're holding them every other week. That's what it is. And I think it's every other Monday that the orientations are occurring. So her time in dealing with the secondary schools is being cut very short because she's having to spend so much time.
Well, we're talking,
With
right
the
now,
secondary.
313 children you ceased. So we're talking about, we could increase to 600 kids.
Well, what we
I don't know if you will, but you could.
we
If you did your new thing, you could do up to 600 kids.
we projected adding an additional 160 students. Now that could be students that are in our existing schools. That could be students that have gone to other virtual charter schools here in our state that may decide, hey, I want to, I'm just going to go to that. I can have support, in my county. I don't know, but we are projecting that we could take on another 160 students.
And if you look at, if you look at where we are currently in phase 2, so instructor costs are about $100,000 an instructor. You can see that based on our current enrollment, we could actually fund 8 positions on our current enrollment. So we're asking for
8 additional
yes,
8
8
additional positions, and we're asking for 6.
and we're asking for 6. So we already have the student enrollment in place to basically fund the positions. And now we're talking about, well, what does that allow us to do?
So you're talking about 4 more courses,
4 core,
a half special ed coordinator position and art teacher.
Now, the other piece I want to add, I've just briefly talked with Mr. Pack about this. We were really trying to figure out how we could get the students in virtual school exposure to ACT and the courses ACT offers. As of now, the only thing we've come up with is there's a teacher there, the teacher who works with our at-risk middle school students that visit the school once a week. We are looking at the possibility of him providing a virtual class from ACT for our students, and they could earn an elective that way as well. So we'd have another live teacher, but he's already employed, so that wouldn't be an additional cost. It would be during his workday. We're still working that out to see if we can manage that, but Mr. Pack believes there's time in the schedule that we could likely do that. So again, we're trying to get a live teacher in front of the students on the computer, to your point. I mean, it's still a live teacher, but virtual teacher.
What kind of subject would ACT teach?
I know.
Well, it's a careers class. The high school students have careers electives. So, like an exposure to the careers at ACT, because ultimately, if we can get these students something that would really help them understand the opportunities available at ACT their junior and senior year, if they took these classes either their freshman or sophomore year, we might be able to get them, even if they want to remain virtual for half the day, they could come to ACT for the other half of the day, their junior and senior year. So again, we're really thinking outside the box, trying to get our kids, our high school students, to stay in school and to understand the different opportunities we have available.
And there's probably a lot of parents that really don't understand what ECT has to offer,
Sure.
and that might help. I mean, at
Well,
least give them some exposure
Yes.
to what's there.
Ms. Hodges and I met with a potential dropout recently, probably within the last month. think it was our last student we met with. And the student was going to drop out. The student's now on virtual, and we were working with that family to figure out, okay, if you do this year, maybe we can get you to ACT for half a day next year or the following year. So to your point, I don't think all parents really understand, or they just don't know what we have available. So us doing a better job of communicating what we have available will help as well. But I do believe, I believe the expansion could prove beneficial in terms of keeping students here in Raleigh County. But I mean, we won't know until we would try it. The other piece to this that I would want to say, we're preparing to come back and propose another revision to the virtual policy. Right now, our policy says you have to be a resident of Raleigh County schools, and of Raleigh County, sorry, and you have to have attended a traditional school for a semester in Raleigh County, or come from another county where you've attended virtual for a semester. That's currently in our policy. We're going to be coming to you and proposing we take that out. That if you live here, you can participate in a virtual program. Just no restrictions. So that's a, it will, yes.
But the county doesn't, they have a thing, they'll take you from anywhere in the state.
I'm gonna say this, it's not going to be my intent to take a student from any other county. All of us are struggling to keep students. I don't know, I truly don't know how the transfer, the law that changed 4 years ago, that deals with out-of-county transfers or out-of-county enrollments, that we can't deny them unless they have a level 3 or 4 infraction within the last year. I don't know how that applies to virtual school. So again, it's not our intent at all to snatch students from other counties. I wouldn't want people to do that to us either, but I don't know how that law applies.
Just a couple of statements. I guess in theory, you're trying to grow the 220 number. You're not trying to grow the 313 number.
Right,
Correct.
You don't want to
Correct.
increase the turnip school.
Right.
Correct.
yeah.
And then the other thing, just to clarify in my mind, that 220 and that 313 are grades 6 through 12.
Yes.
So it's not K through 5.
No, and we wouldn't, we don't at this point anticipate trying to do elementary virtual. Not at this point. We tried the 4th and 5th grade, if you remember. We did that a couple years ago, or it was last year. I think we had 6 students sign up in both 4th and 5th grade total. So we didn't have a large interest in that virtual program. But yes, Mr.
So
Dillon.
we do the other 4, add another section.
Yes.
We could really do, you're projecting maybe 100 students, but you could really handle 200 new, right?
Yes. What we would like, ideally, from my conversation with Ms. Hodges, I believe ideally we would like to keep it to about 250 per group of 4 teachers. They're at 313 now, but ideally it would be about 250 per group of 4.
Would a halftime special ed be, I don't know how many special ed you have on virtual, but would that meet caseload requirements and everything? I mean, you would be able to still,
Well,
or
right-
those don't apply maybe?
Well, right now we have 1 full-time, and we're thinking, because not all students on virtual have an IEP, so we're thinking that another halftime would work. So we could do a halftime special educator, halftime coordinator. That's what we're thinking.
You're talking an additional halftime special ed?
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, we have
In
a
my mind, I
full-time.
was thinking you're converting the full-time to a halftime.
No, we could not do that, no. We know right now we are over we need another special educator, but we think we could manage half-time.
And this is about pivoting too. I mean, you know, as we go forward, we may come back and ask for, based on caseload or enrollments,
Right.
additional staffing. I mean, this is going to be a moving target as we go forward, and we want to make sure we're meeting the needs as they warrant.
With the funds, basically the money we're getting from the state for the student thing is gonna
It
pay
funds
for
it.
Funds it,
Yeah.
And we're talking adding 4 additional core, 1 halftime special ed / coordinator, and 1 art.
Yes.
Or 6 people. Yeah.
That's what we,
the money for 8. I think let's do it.
And just to speak about the alternative piece, my experience with that, your virtual numbers are always gonna be the largest in second semester.
Right.
Because I mean, if you notice your alternative numbers, first semester is 30, everybody's still in the honeymoon period. And then you're in now 93 second semester, so it's always gonna be larger your second semester, always gonna be smaller your first semester, because in reality, in theory, those kids are returning back to their school.
And this may not be a question that you can answer, but when you mentioned that, are all, the alternative kids successful with virtual? I mean, are we getting success there?
I don't believe they're all successful. I believe some are successful, and I will say,
The majority maybe?
Um,
I'm sure all of them aren't, but.
I
All
think,
of us will be successful.
Either
No,
way, they're not
no,
accessible, they're not accessible in the
no,
regular.
But the
Um,
That's
majority,
how we ended
you
up
want
on
to- I saw him do this. Go ahead. He used to
I'll
work.
say this, the success rate has absolutely increased with the live virtual teaching. As opposed to the way we used to do it with, Edmonton or Plato, where you're
I can
just
see that,
100% virtual.
especially alternative
So they,
students.
they do better, with, for live bodies.
Well, and I'm just saying that because, of course, our goal as a school system is to make those kids successful.
Yes, ma'am.
Get them to graduate and go on and be
Exactly.
successful. And since we have 93, I'm sitting here thinking, wonder how many of them are actually getting what we hope they get in the
I don't
program
have
that's good
that
for them.
percentage.
You know,
I
when
can
we have
ask.
a discussion here, we tell those children, you know, you're gonna be placed in alternative program and stuff, and it's up to you to go and do this stuff. We've all been there. I would be surprised if 50% of them, do that, because a lot of times when we get there, they're, you know, it's got to put a little effort in them. We can't force them.
Alternative, but I would certainly hope we were successful with more than that.
I don't-
I'll say this too, now, when you think of, alternative, those students you're placing there, based upon their behavior, the 220 number, they're choosing to be there.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
So
so that's the difference.
those students are, partaking of the 4 core, and then they're getting into the electives with through Edmonton. The students in the past, if we placed an alternative, we routinely don't give them an elective. They're just getting the core classes. So if you think about it, somewhat they're falling behind. They're not getting that opportunity to get that elective. Does that make sense? So with this theory of getting
Maybe
an
they
elective
could.
teacher, you're still having the capability of getting some elective classes.
And again, here goes my mind, at some point, I'd like to really look into that whole alternative thing. Not to say we're not doing what we can and the
Sure.
alternative, but just to see, you know, how many kids are successful. Are they successful? Do they return to school? Do they stay on alternative? How many are we graduating?
Yeah.
It would just be really interesting
Look at that data.
information to know as a system what we're doing with that chunk of
Right.
kids.
Because, you know,
We can do that.
a lot of those children, the reason I was saying that, a lot of those children, we look over there, they were failing in the regular school.
A lot of them
Were.
had difficulties, and that's why they were an alternative.
Well, they had behavior problem, but if you look back at their behavior, but their thing, they were failing. So I question whether that we put an alternative, all of a sudden their behavior is gonna, or their active performance is gonna increase that much. I just wonder about
Well,
that.
they're not in the
Yeah,
classroom
well,
to act out.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of them don't have a lot of parental support,
They don't have any.
and that's part of it.
That's-
But we can't fix that, other than maybe a lot of teachers can help
Right.
that part.
but
Right.
again, curious minds
We can-
like mine wants to know what,
I-
what we,
We can do that. We can get that
that
information.
segment of our population.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's great. Said something. Oh, the other, I wanted to say too, that on Fridays, I said earlier that we have live teaching Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday. On Fridays, we also provide tutoring. So if any student
Yeah.
wants to request tutoring, our teachers provide that on Fridays.
Is it still strictly virtual or is it face to face? If needed.
As far as I'm aware, it's been virtual. I don't think, I think it would be fine if they came here for face-to-face if they needed
They did
it.
some, I know Bernie had a few times, he had some.
Well, that wasn't tutoring, that was the next thing I was gonna say.
Yeah,
With the virtual, and I don't think they've done that this year, Bernie's not here, and he
Yeah.
led, I think he really
Yeah.
led that.
yeah.
But I would like to also, as we expand, make sure we bring that back, where the students can come in, I think it was once a quarter he was doing that, where they dissected the
Yeah.
heart and dissect the shark. I went down and did that with them. But then there was something upstairs with technology and veneering. So we bring them in on occasion, again, just to interact with others. But anyway, they're testing this week. We had very few virtual students who did not come to ACT for their GSA. I mean, very few. So that's going well.
One other question, will you be able to house them all here?
That is our intent. I've not spoken to Mr. Dillon quite about that yet, but we have some space upstairs that we are hoping, I haven't talked to Mr. Dillon yet about this. I've talked to Ms. Hodges. We're hoping that we can put them upstairs.
Because it just seems to me if they were all in the same location, they would be able to work better together and
So that's
coordinate
great.
things.
That's a great question. So last year, with our second floor, not remodel, but with paint and carpet, last year, prior to this year, they were all downstairs in the basement, in the same area, and they were really teaching over top of each other, and it wasn't very productive at times. So when we knew we had to move offices and whatnot, the carpet and paint, we thought, well, this is a great opportunity. So we purposely moved them upstairs and gave them their own classroom, if you will, with 4 walls and a door. So I'm not teaching over Dr. Starcher.
Not like a call center.
Yes, but we were also able to keep them in the same vicinity. So they're in the swing right above us. So you are correct. So they have the best of both worlds right now. They're still with their, hey, I have a question with this kid, or you have the same problem, and they're also able to not try to yell over top of their teacher as well.
So I have some ideas of where they can go upstairs. I just need to share them with Mr. Dillon, and we may have to do a little bit of putting up a wall here or there, but I think we can manage keeping them all here. It's
Yeah, I
better
think
that
that's
way.
important. I really
Yeah,
do.
it's better that way.
And I will tell you, you can see on phase 3, if you look at the bottom, there's nothing in this budget relating to this. Reason being, weren't sure you were wanting to do it, but the other reason is I have to actually inflate state aid above what the state is allocating. And while the numbers are here to indicate that, yes, this will be successful, I don't feel comfortable not matching the state aid formula. That'll be a finding on the budget review. And we just wanted to present this to you so you could understand the financial impact, the funding impacts of this expansion and how it would reflect on the district. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is the budget will only improve as a result of this, not go the other direction. So, all right.
The else that they mentioned, they're in close proximity to their supervisor. It's honest too, as opposed to, they're down here, you gotta run down the steps, try to communicate.
Better all the way
It's working together.
Some are,
Some are big.
yes. I know.
Just a couple quick items before we move into the kind of the salary payroll side of things, if we could. In section 8, handout number 3, is a one-to-one technology initiative. It says it at the top, one-to-one technology initiative. Should be right behind the, yes,
Section 8.
should be right behind the safety and security handout. Should look like.
Nutrition.
It'll be before nutrition. It should be right before the school
Yes.
allocation.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So this is just the summary that I give you every year to show you the technology initiative. I mean, we set aside funds every year throughout the period after refresh to make sure we have sufficient funding on hand for the next refresh. And so I'm projecting that our total implementation cost for the next refresh would be around $10 million. This one was 9.3 million, I believe, for the refresh. So you know how costs go. So I'm estimating 10 million. So we would need $2.5 million a year to do that. How would we fund that? Well, we do have technology integration funding through the levy. That's one of the mechanisms we use to fund. We also use 21st century technology funding. That's about $2 million a year. And then we have some Step 7 funding that we use as well. And then we have to also consider the disposal value of our current devices. And you can see here, I'm estimating 800,000. I believe that that disposal value would be greater than 800,000. So I'm being conservative in the estimate, but sufficient to say that I project we'll have a need of 10 million, and I project our reserves would be around 11.9 million. So we would be able to, if there was an expansion like we did this time with MacBooks, and if there was some other expansion or something we wanted to pivot to as a district, this is to tell you we would have the funding to also meet that need. Okay. The next handout behind that is just the school allocations. That's how much the schools get through each of the levy components of instructional support, music, band, choir, library reading, PE and student wellness, reading and math. And then also there's some Step 7 program enhancement funding that goes to schools, and then the curricular and extracurricular support. Behind that is just an enrollment analysis that shows you how the enrollments have dropped essentially every year since 2010 and 11. We've had reductions pretty much in enrollments. The last handout in that section is child nutrition. And, you know, this is the first year of CEP. And so we were anticipating this year about a $1.9 million, or a little north of 1.8 million county need in order to fully fund CEP. In looking at the numbers and the reimbursements, you know, we base next year's reimbursements off of last year's or this year's utilization of child nutrition. We're projecting, if you look at the bottom, about a $1.7688 million need. So a little bit of a reduction because our numbers are a little bit better. The reimbursements are holding, and we do have a 3% inflation factor on food and milk costs, mainly because I'm sure the food dye issue will have some impact on child nutrition on food costs as we go forward. So we have to consider that, but we are holding. So that's a good thing. We're down about $200,000 from what we projected we would be. So that's a good thing in terms of CEP. It's still a significant contribution by the county, but you know, in terms of where our receivables were and not getting paid on those receivables, the trade-off is basically even. So I just wanted to show you that. Did you want to take a break? Anybody want to take a break, or are we still good? Okay. All right. Next, we'll move into some of the salary issues or personnel issues.
Before you jump to that, you said earlier, Serena, I think that, I don't know what you were talking about at the time, but something about federal reimbursements and federal funding, and you didn't know how it would affect this program in particular.
Well, I don't. All I said was we don't know really about our federal funding likely until July.
But we don't have word yet, final word. I think we have some guidance. Received guidance that we are to budget. Based on the information we received, they don't have any other guidance to provide at this time. So,
Right.
Well, you don't know.
We just don't know.
You're
We're
on
assuming we're good.
continuing resolution, right? You're on continuing resolution right now. And that's, our year starts, July, federal year doesn't start till October 1, okay? So,
I mean, it's just,
that, this great, big, wonderful bill that, somebody wants to put through, we don't know what's gonna be. So, you don't know, and the crazy thing is, it can rescind money,
Because he's cutting everybody, he's rescinding all kinds of money.
yeah.
well, as an example, we were told earlier that there was no reason to anticipate a Gear Up cut. Gear Up's been zeroed out of his budget. Well, we still have a Gear Up coordinator upstairs. If we don't receive the Gear Up funding, she's still an employee of Raleigh County Schools, so we have to pay her.
Personnel season is
Exactly. Like I said last night at the meeting, Dr. Hutchins, Head Start's been zeroed out.
Yeah.
We had 7 classes this year with Head Start. They'd already told us they would have to move to 5 next year. But if Head Start remains zeroed out, then we could have about 100 students we have to find a placement for in our schools, which means we're going to have to add pre-K programs. But we don't know that yet. Title II has been zeroed out. We have coaches, some of our coaches are paid through Title II. So we'll have to keep them and figure out how we're going to pay for them.
They gonna be washing dishes.
It's a lot of uncertainty. So I haven't seen anything that says we're not going to receive funding for child nutrition, but we haven't received anything we just don't know. I guess it's just the uncertainty. So if we,
So any and all of those things can have a huge budget impact. on
Correct.
what we're doing right now.
that's
Correct.
exactly
I mean, it
right.
might be-
Well,
Might be.
tell you how bad it is, a lot of those people who work in, USDA in this program, they were let go on a Thursday, at like 5 o'clock, and then, Friday afternoon, they were told to come back to work. That's how things, they don't know where they're coming or going, they have no idea. Then they offered them a deferred, retirement plan, which they went ahead and left, and they're on full payroll, benefits and everything until October 1, but they can't come to the office. They're gone. But, no, I don't want to save any money, but they're still paid. So that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with right now that no one knows.
What I just handed out to you is every year I provide you a projection, taking the certified list and then projecting where we are for next year. So you can see for FY25 professional, you can see we're 79 positions over. Through the realignment of positions, we're projected to go to 27 positions next year. In terms of salary, those positions cost about 1.6 million plus fixed costs.
Mr. Butcher, for the record, I'm just gonna say it's 10:20 and President Ford has returned.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the next section shows the service side. Service shows 47 over. Now remember, the ECATs were not in that number. We're going to 84 positions over on service next year. That's about $3.4 million. And then you see the fixed charges on all that.
Do they, when we add those ECATs, do they adjust their thing for us at all? I mean, we're adding those because they were told to. Do they increase?
Yes,
So there,
Our formula so that we're not as far over formula? I guess that's what I'm saying.
well, my understanding, I went through a training, a virtual training provided by Uriah Cummings from the department. And he said, whatever this number is that we're already over, 47.61, we have to add the number of third grade ECATs we're going to employ, because if we're already over, we're gonna be over even more, basically. The funding has been provided, but that, through state aid for the third grade ECATs, but we're still that far over.
We're still 47,
But we're plus, actually, I think their funding is for 32.
Yes, funding is for 32.
We have posted 29 based on enrollment. So that 47 plus 29 gives us, I think that's right, 76 that were, based on this, that would be over. But Mr. Butcher sees us that it's 83,
Mhm.
83 that we're actually over.
Well, 84.
84.37.
So, the total cost of those positions is about 5.8 million. The analysis I provided you last year, the same analysis showed us, about 5.2 million. So it's about a $600,000 increase from the number from last year of over formula cost. Now, I will say, the purpose of the realignment was to put fully certified teachers in classrooms that are currently being held by substitutes, okay? And you can see from these numbers that that is being achieved. The impact of that, if you look at the first handout in section 8.
Oh, I thought you were finished. I closed
Yeah.
that book up. That's hard to get back there.
The first handout in section 8 actually shows you the impact on the substitute side. Page 2 of that handout. And you've seen this when we started through the reduction in force and the realignment. You've seen this handout. So on the professional side, and it is reflected in this budget, a reduction in substitute costs of about $2.2 million. Okay, and again, that's from taking teachers and realigning them, putting them in classrooms where currently or before that position was being held by a substitute. So that's where you're seeing the true impact of the realignment. 2.3 million in substitute savings on the professional side, and then the next page shows you on the service side, not as dramatic, but about $700,000 on the service side. And then there's a position reduction on the service side. So the total service savings is about $759,000. And all of these are reflected in this budget. That's one of the reasons you're seeing the need going from 8+ million down to 4+ million is partially due to this realignment, okay?
So we will have more
Teachers in classrooms.
full-time employees, certified teachers in classrooms, and less long-term subs.
Yes.
Is the impact.
That's the true impact of the
That's the impact.
realignment, yeah.
In the past 2 years, we've had between 70 and 90 long-term subs teaching. And this year, we anticipate far less than that.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes. Yes.
Personal season was hard, but that will be a great result of it, to have fully certified teachers in most of our classrooms.
As we look at this number, I mean, I guess I'm still trying to wrap my head around this 84.37 on service. How, I mean, I know what we did to get realigned into the professional. How do you deal with that on a service thing to get back when you're mandated to have those ECATs up to the third? I mean, how, I mean,
We talked about this just yesterday. I told Mr. Butcher, I said, I know I'm superintendent and I'm supposed to have an answer for that. I can't figure out how to do it. I mean, we met with every principal. Mr. Dillon was there. We met with the directors. I mean, we're not overstaffed in secretaries in our schools. Most of them only have one. Our cooks, I mean, based on the state recommendation, we don't meet it exactly everywhere, but we're close to what the state recommends. Mr. Tony has, as bus operators have retired or resigned this year, he has worked with affected bus operators. They've redesigned routes, and we've not filled some of the bus operator positions, either 2 or 3 already this spring we've absorbed. Custodians, I mean, we base that on square footage,
Yeah,
how we
same
staff,
square
so
footage,
it
doesn't
comes
matter,
down
yeah.
to the aides. And in pre-K, K1 and 1, 2, 3 now, the state dictates how many aides we have in those. So the only place left is special education. And our population continues to grow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're in a real quandary with service personnel.
Well, we talked about this, and I spoke to legislature, they had an opportunity to correct that this year, they did.
Mhm. You're right.
It used to be 2-1 for special ed, and then it went, now it's 1-1.
1-to-1.
And it just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
The last thing that I have today to go over with you, in section 7, of course, every year I provide you with a summary of central office salaries. And last year, we talked about this in length, and I told you I would bring you back a pay equity analysis to review. And so I have completed that. Now, first of all, let me say, this is just an analysis. There's nothing in this budget related to this. This is really solely because you've asked for a pay equity analysis. This hasn't been done since, I think we first implemented the current structure in FY 2015. So this hasn't been done since then. However, this analysis follows the exact same logic that was utilized in 2015. On page 1, Raleigh County Schools certified enrollment for 2025 is 10,287 students. In comparison with other districts in the state of West Virginia, our student enrollment currently ranks number 6, okay? And on the first page, the model that we utilized in 2014-15 was to keep Raleigh County within the top 10 in pay in positions throughout the state of West Virginia. And so I have looked at that by position just as we did in 2015. If you look on the first page, if you look at superintendents, you can see the average, 178. Ours currently, not for next year, but ours currently is 144. So based on that, you would need an increase of $35,000 for the superintendent. On the next page is assistant superintendents. The average of the top 10 assistants in the state's 135,000. Ours is 119,000. So it would say you would increase it by 16,000. The next page is treasurer CSBOs. The average is 132,000. Ours is 115,000. That would warrant an increase of 17,000. On page 4, looking at instructional programs, the average is 112,000. Ours is 103,000. So that would say an increase of 9,200. On page 5, looking at directors of support programs, the average is 107,000. We pay 96,000. Well, you can see it varies based on the position in those support programs, but over to the right, you could see the increases that would be warranted to bring those to the state average. On page 6 is attendance directors. The average is 110,000. We pay 88,000, so 20, almost 23,000 increase. On page 7, child nutrition directors. The average is 110,000. Our pay is 88,000, so the difference would be 23,000. On the last page is just for your information. It shows you for assistant directors and coordinators and specialists where we currently are and what those contract lengths are. There is no true comparison in the certified list schedules for me to go back to on those. On page 9, shows you what the total increase would be if you brought those salaries up to the state average. Be $276,000 of cost. The rest of the page 10 through the end of the document, I think there's sometimes can be a misconception. Central office employees work 240-day schedules for the most part. A lot of personnel in our schools work varying contract lengths ranging from 200 to 215 to 220. And so in order for there to be a true comparison of those, I have provided you a summary that equates all contracts to 240 days and how those positions rank in terms of salaries throughout the county. So the ones that are highlighted there are positions that are not central office positions that would fall within or above the ranks of those instruction program directors or those support program directors. So I wanted you to be able to see a true comparison of salaries, because I think sometimes that gets lost, that the contract lengths vary in the county. And so,
Explain that again. That remind me, I didn't.
well, let's say I'm a principal, I'm a 205-day principal, okay? And let's equate that to 240-day contracts if you're comparing central office directors to a principal, for instance. It's equating all salaries to 240-day contracts, so you can see a true comparison of where central office salaries are in
Like down
comparison
here
with
at
others.
the bottom, Jan Smith there, he actually makes 88.
Yes,
But if he was working on 240, it'd be 96.
yes.
So that's basically, I mean, he has those days off.
So I think oftentimes when we're making comparison to central office salaries, we're not equating apples to apples when the contract lengths are different. And this schedule provides you with that information. And again, as I said, there's nothing within this analysis that's reflected in the budget. So this is just solely informational.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate it. I like,
Thank you.
yeah. It's good to know. And it's also eye-opening to me. You go through, and I go through stuff, and I know a bunch of counties who are high-paid or oil and gas counties at the top.
Correct, yes.
And I understand, but didn't you get a county you throw in there, like a mineral county? I'm like, wait a minute, they're broke. They don't, and how they're paying, who, I don't know. It's not-
I have indicated in there for you as well, for our central office staff, on those individual pages, where the current rank is within the state. So you can see that as well. As I was going through this, if you threw out, even, because the highest paid sometimes skews the number.
Sure.
even if you throw out the highest number, you might affect that difference by $2,000 per employee. It's,
Right. Well, I mean, just, give you an example is, Ohio and Mon County, assistant superintendents make more than superintendents in Raleigh County.
yes.
Assistant superintendents. But those are. But yeah, Mon and Berkeley kind of throw Ohio, they're up there, they kind of throw some stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting reading because if you look at, it depends on what position you're looking
Yeah,
at, as to
yeah.
what counties you're really,
I was gonna
Uh,
say, whose
yeah.
cousin's the food director? I mean, I'm
Right.
not serious.
Well,
As a
that's-
tennis director, I mean,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Logan County, somebody in Logan County knew somebody on that one there, I mean, they're up there, you know.
I think, in terms of our model, our directors get an increase when the state provides an increase or the levy provides an increase. I think that this makes it clear, so does everybody else. We're not the only
Right,
county
right.
that's doing that, so the numbers are what they are, but that provides you the information. And that's all I have, unless you all have some more questions or comments or.
Well, excellent presentation as always and stuff, there's so much stuff on it. I keep these books for a year, but then the trash man won't take them anymore, they're too heavy.
What did he say?
I keep these books for a year, but then when I get rid of them, the trash man won't take them because they're too daggone heavy.
Aw.
There's too much stuff in it.
Yeah.
But
I'll
binders are-
bring them up here tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
they
keep
they
mine.
do, I need to cart back the binders and stuff, but,
But these, I think we do a good job of working to our budget. We look at the budget requests, and we actually evaluate those throughout the year with our directors to see where we are, to make sure we're gonna hit those, projects and get them done, so.
I'll tell you, in my years on the board, starts back with Charlotte. Raleigh County's always been blessed to have funding, but we have improved the funding. When she inherited from the previous superintendent, we weren't in that kind of shape. She knows that. They just spent a little bit more than what they should have on some stuff. And, so she got it in the black good, and then we continued that, with the superintendents after that and the boards. And so I think it's a reflection of the, treasurer and the superintendents we've had in Raleigh County and the board, that we've been able to get to such a financially, secure position to be able to do stuff. I mean, there's very few counties in the state of West Virginia who can go to the SBA without a bond
Oh, for sure.
and say, hey, we've got a project out here, it's $20 million. If you give us 10, we'll put 10 in on it.
Well, and I think that's, one of the things is, central office staff that we're very cognizant of, is that, we want to do everything we can to keep from running a bond levy, to put an additional burden on our taxpayers. And I think we try to do everything we can to achieve that result and not increase the burden on our taxpayers, so.
And you've been very prudent, all of our superintendents have, and yourself and other treasurers, to be able to leverage that money, to take that $10 million and make it to $20 million.
Correct.
That's.
Well, it's critical, it's
Yeah.
critical to our
Yeah.
future.
And the school building authorities always said they've been good to us, and I always said we've been good to you also. Because we've come with money to the table. And if you've been to a school building authority, funding meeting, somebody come in there and they've got their hand out and they don't have anything in their hand. We do have stuff, and it's just the way it goes. I remember, county, and I won't say which one, came in and they wanted money to put a new, roof on their bus garage because it was leaking. And I'm like, well, that's a general maintenance stuff, that's just general maintenance stuff that we would do, but they had
The latest example is e-building.
yeah.
What the SBA said.
Exactly,
So now we've pivoted, okay, we'll make use out of e-building.
Sure.
And then we'll come back and hopefully get money with our money.
yeah, look at
I
it.
don't know, Dr. Starcher, Darren, maybe you can answer this, but there's a lot of talk out there that there may be a special session, and one of the things they may look at is school aid funding formula. Have you heard anything on that? Or, of course, that's gonna, maybe not for next year, but at some point it's gonna blow all this stuff smithereens.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's all I've heard, is that there could
Just
be a
that there
special
may be
session this
one.
summer. They talked about, just mentioned it last week at
So
our conference.
there's no definites or anything, it's still just an
Not that they
amendment out
shared
there.
with us.
I think the PEIA issue is
It's a
really,
big one.
it's affecting the state, but it's significantly impacting boards of ed too. I mean, all those overperforming positions you see in that $600,000 increase, a lot of that is attributable straight to the increase in PEIA. So hopefully there'll be something to address controlling some of those
Well, PEI
costs.
and the other things are,
Yeah.
the rumor mill has out there that they may have a special session to it.
I think sometimes, like we were talking about, we take good care of our, funds here, and we accumulate them for a rainy day or for a school building project. And sometimes I think people see that we're accumulating this funding because we know what it's for. Mr. Butcher just laid out 5 years down the road, what we're going to be doing with this funding or what we'd like to do. But not everyone does that, so then they see us as sitting on this funding. But again, we don't go to the school building authority and with nothing. That's how we've been able to do a lot of what we've done here in
Well,
the
you
county.
can see,
So I'm concerned, I heard some little comment, I can't even remember it specifically, but concerned that that people at the state level could be looking at counties and the funding that they have sitting in a pot and thinking, okay, they don't need additional funds. Well, we do, but we're saving that money for a specific purpose, but I don't think that's always
but that's
looked
the,
at or thought about when
Yeah.
the
We
state
battled
sees our
back
funding.
when, Charlotte and I went down to SBA for marsh work. They grilled us around and around, well, you've got this money here, and man, we just went at it big time. And said, yeah, we could spend all that money, and then we'd be like every other county coming down here to you,
I
Just
recall,
because we got a little money in the bank doesn't mean we, need to blow it. It's just-
right, but then, like I said, for a rainy day, I was in Bridgeport for the conference last week, and, I can't remember what county it was, but I had the local news on, and, a superintendent was on the news, and, the local station was reporting on the fact that this county was $1 million short to balance its budget, and the superintendent said something to the effect of, I believe it's going to take state intervention. And I thought, I'm so thankful that we aren't in that place. We can't spend all of our money so that it looks like we don't have any, and then next year, we can't balance our budget.
well, when WVDE
So-
grades your, looks at your results before they come in and decide to take over, there's several factors they look at. One of the main factors they look at is where are your reserves? What percentage is your reserves? Are they over 16%? Are they under 16%? So, when you're looking at county boards and you're trying to say, well, they're sitting on all this money, you gotta understand, well, you gotta take 16% off the top. And if you're looking at total fund balance, I've shown you, we're at 92 million. Well, but only 20-some million of that is available. So there's the other part that I think oftentimes gets missed. The other thing is that I've shown you is we currently have $22 million of capital improvement and, or permanent improvement capital project funding. Well, we're getting ready to do $43 million worth of work over the next 3 years. If you don't have reserves, how do you get there? How does, the work doesn't get done? And I think oftentimes, it's forgotten that we have to plan. We ain't planning for just this year or just next year. We're planning for 4 or 5 years from now, and what does that look like? And oftentimes that gets missed, I think, when people start looking at reserves and fund balances. Woodrow's a prime example. We've got $15 million sitting there hoping to do a $30 million project. Okay, well, yeah, that's sitting there, but we still have a project to complete. So,
Well, and you have a situation where if you were going like a lot of people live, you have a gym that falls down around your ears like a park. That wasn't in the plan or long-range plan or anything else.
Correct.
So how do you react to that if you don't have a reserve?
you have to pivot, that's
You
right.
don't have a
Correct.
reserve. That's something you have to do. And a prudent school system doesn't like that.
Yes,
It's not easy to say no sometimes, is it?
it is not. It's our job to do it, though.
But you have to.
Yeah.
And that's why you get the superintendent you were talking about said, well, you know, we're $1 million and the state may come in. It's because of no planning and no looking at.
Well,
it
this
and
has
no
been-
Saying no.
I felt sorry for the
Can't please
superintendent.
everyone all the time.
I felt sorry for him when he said it, but, because you have to know, it's not all the superintendent.
No,
I mean,
of course
that
not.
superintendent didn't do that, the board, the superintendent, you know, whatever, and who knows, I don't know the situation in that county, but when I heard him say it, I thought, wow, I'd hate to say that about Raleigh County. It's
Well, and
going
it
to be
takes
state intervention.
years, and you remember from when you were superintendent, you know, the direction that, we tried to approach this from was let's get our reserves where they need to be, and then everything else will start falling into place. And that's what happens. If you don't pay attention to reserves, you let positions get out of hand, or you let costs get out of control, then your reserves aren't where they are, and you have to focus all of your funding back to just trying to operate the system rather than trying to move it forward. And it takes years to get a county financially where they need to be, even with an excess levy like we have. So,
Well, you got your 10-year plan, I mean, you know, so all counties have to have that, right?
Oh, the facility plan, the 10-year facility plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. But I remember at our, when we were working on our CEFP the last time, we were working with ZMM, and they expressed, I don't wanna say amazement, but a pleasant surprise that we had accomplished almost all of the projects.
Just one,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yes, it was an
One thing?
elementary school.
Yeah.
And said, you know, not all counties do that, but even with what we're doing, we're ticking off many of our projects. We won't get them all finished, it's too much money, but, like all the safe school entrances and all the separate gyms, but
Maybe
you
we
put it in a
progress.
plan and you work towards that plan.
Rick, do you remember when we had all the leaky
Are we
roofs and
on?
buckets everywhere?
Oh, I told that story today, sir. When you
We're
went
not
to
on.
Coal City Elementary, it was a, we said roofs, yeah.
Knocking them off.
Said we're gonna do so many roofs a year,
Yeah.
instead of waiting this
Oh,
thing.
it was terrible.
Yeah, it was. You know, it's another thing, and when we inherited that, it's just kinda like, they'd wait till the roof was leaking so bad, then you replaced it. They didn't have any kind of a thing waiting. Like you said, we have someone come in now and
well,
check on it.
having that roofing plan, and we just started that 2 or 3 years ago. But having that in place has really redirected our approach to roofs and how we find them. I mean, before it was kind of, yeah, that roof's bad, we'd better go ahead and do something about it. Now it's more of a, these are your roofs ranked in terms of, and you can go, you know, you may have 2 or 3 more years left on this one, but now this one, you really need to do something about it next year. It's gonna start causing you some problems, so.
Oh, and we used to do some stupidest things. We would, put a brand new roof in, and then we put the HVAC system in.
Yeah.
Honestly, and tear it up, and tear up the brand new roof and have leaks.
Well, I will say that about ACT. If we get funded and we're able to do this project, that'll be the follow-up to,
Yeah.
ACT will be the new
You put-
roof. so.
yeah, Exactly, you put that, you got your order, you put your
Yeah.
HVAC system, and you put your roof in.
Yeah, we branched that out, you know, the last couple of years too, you know, getting on a bleacher rotation.
Yeah,
Right.
Now we're
Floors.
getting on a track rotation.
Right.
I can't tell you the amount of people that have come up to me in the public who they've heard that we're going to redo the tracks, who are saying, thank you.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
tennis courts.
Yeah, right.
Some are
Yeah.
tennis courts.
Yeah,
that tear up.
yeah.
Well, but it's just like with anything, people included, you get older, wear out, so you have to
You
replace.
have to have the big print.
well, and you see,
They don't stock my parts. They don't stock my parts, I'm trying to get it, they don't stock all the parts, I'm gonna look at it there and stuff, you know. I look for a few new parts, and they said, man, there's like,
They don't make them
you
anymore.
go to the junkyard and get them maybe, but that's about it.
and I think one thing that gets forgotten too is there's 27 buildings in this county.
Yes.
And so, you know, anytime we have to undertake a major initiative, it may be 5, 6 years before we get there because we have to go to 27 locations
Well,
oftentimes.
and I told somebody one time, and you guys, Gary was here, but said, you know, it's hard enough when you got, 3 commodes in your house to keep them all flushing and from running everything. Imagine if you had all those in all those other buildings, you know? I mean, I'm just, that's a small
Yeah.
example, but just, you know, the same thing. You have one individual house or
Yeah.
something, but
We started this morning at 4:29.
No power.
That's when we had
The
several
power.
conversations. No
Yep.
power on the
Power
air.
outage.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
And
yeah.
going back and forth with the power company here.
Right.
I mean, you know, you can't, you're right.
right,
That's 3 of 27 buildings.
right, exactly. So it's a
And
whole.
guess what it is?
Yeah,
Testing week.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It
know what I
always
mean?
happens that way, doesn't it?
That's right.
Well, and, you know, and it's a big county, I mean, we said before, they're Woodrow Wilson, which I guess is our biggest school, I'm sure it is, but the big school has more students and more square footage than some counties have in the whole county. There's quite a few counties, one time I looked at, I think there's like maybe 8 counties that don't have as many students as we have at Woodrow, in the whole county. So it's not all apples and oranges out there when your state starts dividing up this money and stuff and doing things.
Our facilities are probably in the top.
They're good.
Yeah.
And we've done it,
real.
I mean, actually, the ones that, some of them had better facilities, the state come in and took them over and did it for them, a neighboring county, for example.
Well, I don't know that they're better facilities
No,
anyway.
better, they got new facilities.
They have
not better
newer,
probably.
they have new facilities, but I don't know
They're
that they're
not better.
better, because in Raleigh County, we don't just do the basics with our school buildings anyway. Like terrazzo flooring, that's not something that is a standard.
You won't find a school with more, I don't say bells and whistles, better thought out,
Up
more
to date.
design than Stratton Elementary. That school's,
Wonderful
I mean, it's beautiful.
Talking about driving by schools, somebody mentioned Maxwell Hill or something. Stratton Elementary's impressive when you drive.
Oh,
by.
it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful facility, sitting down the back.
I've taken people, kinfolk stuff from out of state and took them to Stratton, just wanted them to see the school.
It's
Let's see that.
beautiful.
So are we finished with our meeting to adjourn?
I think we
so.
are.
Oh, yeah,
I think so.
I think so.
Mr. Ford?
Is it still?
Hit your,
You need to hit the button.
yeah, no, hit your mic. Oh.
Okay, we have nothing else on our agenda. This meeting is adjourned.